Good evening, book lovers. Welcome to another episode of Cath-Lit Live. I am your host, Amy Cattapan. Tonight, I welcome back a friend who I've had on Cath-Lit Live a number of times before, but previously we've always talked about his books for kids. Tony Kolenc is my guest again tonight, and we've talked about his Harwood Mystery Series and his latest middle grade book from OSV, from our Sunday Visitor, Penny and the Stolen Chalice. But we're going to talk with him tonight about his first novel for adults. Now, if you haven't met Tony on a previous episode of Cath-Lit Live, let me tell you a bit about him. He is actually the author of 8 novels. That includes the previously mentioned Penny and the Stolen Chalice and his teen historical fiction series, The Harwood Mysteries, which has won 15 book awards, if you can believe it. His new series for adults is Incarnate, from Chrism Press. He is also a columnist for Practical Homeschooling Magazine and the host of the Shepherd's Pie radio show and podcast. He retired as a lieutenant colonel from the U.S. Air Force Judge Advocate General's Corps after 21 years of military service. He currently teaches law at Ave Maria School of Law, and he speaks at writing, legal, and homeschool events. Tony and his family live in Florida. So please help me welcome back to the show, Tony Kolenc. Hi, Tony.
Hey, Amy, how are you?
Good to have you back on Cath-Lit Live. So I just got finished telling everyone your bio again, and how now this is your first book for adults, which is quite a change of pace. How many books do you have again in the Harwood Mystery Series?
The Harwood Mysteries has just finished with 6 books. Book 6, The Devil's Ransom, released in December of 24. Very sad to see it go, for sure, but very excited about doing a series for adults now.
Yeah, so let's talk about it. The title of the first book is Incarnate. Give us our little elevator pitch, our 30-second, what is this book about?
So it's got kind of a very diabolical premise. What would happen if you were to clone the blood of a Eucharistic miracle? And would you wind up with a second Jesus, or what would you wind up with? And why would anybody do that? It would be very diabolical. And so Incarnate follows Joshua Christiansen in Nazareth, Pennsylvania, as he's in high school, about to graduate. His best friend Rachel and him are confronted at the very beginning of the book by a government agent who basically tells him that he's in danger because of who he is. And he, of course, just thinks he's an ordinary kid or teenager. And from that moment on, the rest of the book, he's basically running from somebody or other, because everybody wants a piece of him. Either they want to kill him, they want to exploit him, they want to worship him, they want to do something to him, because if he is the clone of Jesus, what does that mean? Is he the Antichrist, the second coming of Christ, or just a regular kid who's really not anything?
So even though your main character is a teen, what would you say is the readership age for this?
Yes, no, this is not like my books for middle schoolers or young high schoolers. I think older high school kids would be fine. It's put out by Chrism Press, a Catholic publisher, so there's no vulgarity or like sex scenes or anything. But there are some adult topics in here. The actual premise of the book obviously is controversial in its own right. There's definitely some darkness and violence. So definitely college age and above is really what our target audience was. But kids nowadays, even teenagers in high school, are reading much, much worse than this. But I wouldn't give it to your middle schooler, that's for sure.
So where did you get the premise for this book? Because this is quite different from what you've written previously.
Yeah, I'm really excited about it. I was actually terrified. I didn't, I knew I had this book written in its first draft in like 2017. You never heard me say a peep to you about this book.
Right.
'Cause I
Yeah.
was
No, we didn't talk about this. I didn't know you tried anything for adults.
We did not. I was terrified about this idea because it is so controversial of an idea. But I said, actually, I was at a Writers Guild conference a few years ago, really just at lunch with Karen from Chrism Press, and I was like, "What do you think of this idea?" Because Chrism Press does some far out things, and she loved the premise, and so we went from there, and then I was like, "Well, now I guess I have to talk about it." But it really is. It's not meant to be. I mean, there's nothing about it that should be truly offensive to Catholics because it's really a Catholic book for a Catholic from a Catholic publisher, but it's just the I was thinking about Eucharistic miracles, and I went to Lanciano in Italy with my mom a few years back and saw the Eucharistic miracle there, the most well documented Eucharistic miracle in history back from the Middle Ages. And it just occurred to me, like, what if you could clone something like this? What would happen? And then immediately, of course, my mind goes to the Omen and the Antichrist and all these things. And I thought, you know what? What a cool story that would be. But you got to do it the right way. You got to do it with a Catholic publisher. But it's a story that lets us kind of it's a supernatural thriller. So there's definitely, it's more set in the world of, like I would say, Stephen King's Firestarter or the X-Files a little bit, than maybe your normal everyday world that most of you know. And that's okay. That's by design. It's a fun story. But I thought this is a great way for us to even be able to talk about the divine and human natures of Christ, talk about the incarnation, talk about the Gospels, and do it all in the context of this is totally normal. Of course, we're talking about this stuff because this kid is supposed to be, the clone of Jesus, or is he actually? So this is book one of a trilogy. So you're not going to really find that information out till maybe later.
All right. So when we talk about it being Catholic, then is it really just about this idea of the incarnation? Is it about Eucharistic miracles? Like what makes this a Catholic novel? Why did you have to have a Catholic publisher?
Well, I mean, actually, I think it's a great book to mainstream because it's the kind of material that I think anybody would be interested in reading.
Mhm.
I wanted it to be Catholic publisher mostly because I didn't want to go to hell. And I just wanted, I wanted not to become a heretic or something. So Chrism has been great with making sure theologically that it was sound in its, some of the premise of it. They had a few priest authors review it, and the priest authors said really generous, wonderful things. One of them said something like, it was like profound theological meaning,
Oh,
in the
good.
course of an enjoyable story. And it's mostly an enjoyable, thrilling, kind of supernatural thriller story. But because we're dealing with the subject matter that we are, it allows me to talk a lot about the parallel gospels to, Joshua's life. And yeah, talk about Eucharistic miracles. What are they? I talk about Lanciano in there. So there's a lot of Catholic content, and it's coming from a place of, somebody who's very, devoted to the magisterium. I don't want to write anything that is, going to be, seen as truly bad. But let's face it, there are some very crazy things going on in the world of science today, and this really is not. If you could get the blood of Jesus, we'd already have like a bunch of him running around here. It's just a matter of could you get your hands on it and who would want to do it. And that's really what got my imagination flowing. And I did pray about it a bunch because I was like, do I really want to write this book? But it's actually a lot of fun.
So what is next? You said this is part of a trilogy?
Yeah, so book one, Incarnate, just released. It's called the Incarnate series. And I just handed in book two to Chrism Press last month, so the editing will begin on that. And we'll see that come out hopefully next Lent. And then book three the year after that. I think we're on a 1 year schedule. And, I've designed the series so that in some ways you kind of get to relive the life of Christ as you're sort of living this sort of pseudo parallel possible antichrist kind of life. um, and there's plenty of excitement in it for sure, so I'm looking forward to writing book three. I don't know how it's going to end yet. I mean, I have a sense,
I was
but
just thinking of asking, have you plotted out the whole story arc across the trilogy, or
well, I
little
kind of
seat of your
did.
pants going on into the going into the
I
third book?
I kind of did, but I only have it, charted out in the broadest of strokes. Like I know
Yeah.
where I need to end up. And that's what makes it so fun because there's a
Mhm.
lot, like with book two, I had it plotted in my mind in general, but writing it actually became a lot more fun because it still wound up being different than I originally thought. Hopefully, Chrism will like book two also. But yeah, no, it's been well reviewed. I mean, it just released, and it's definitely if you're going to be on Catholic Mom, it's not for the kids, but it is for the moms. That's what Allison Gingras told me when she was like, "Oh, go on Catholic Mom." I was like, "It's not for the kids," and she said, "Moms read too." Okay, got
That's
it.
right. That's right. And Cath-Lit Live episodes get shared on my YouTube channel, but they also get shared on the Catholic Mom website. So now they've been warned. The mom's been warned. This one's for you, moms and dads.
Yes,
It's for you
absolutely,
and maybe your older teen kids.
absolutely.
Sounds good. All right. Well, where can people learn more about you and your books, Tony?
All right. Well, obviously, you can go to my website, antonykolenc.com. There's no H in Antony. Chrism Press actually has a really nice page for this too. So check that out. You can, of course, get it anywhere, Amazon and Barnes and Noble and all that. They have it in ebook and paperback. They don't have an audio version of it yet. But, and then, of course, I always like to say, go to your local Catholic or Christian bookstore and just have them order it and stock it. Why not? I was at Notre Dame this week. I was so thrilled, and I saw some of my books on the shelves at the Notre Dame bookstore, and I was like,
Nice.
"Yes, I
And
love it."
people's
I want to.
libraries too, people forget they can request that their library buy a book. And then you
Yes,
never know who else is going to stumble upon it. If you've asked your library to order a copy, you don't have to pay for it. Then who knows who else will find it on the shelf one day.
definitely. So yeah, do that, do that. But also, you could buy them from Amazon if you want.
Yes, yes, on all those good places. All right. Thank you so much, Tony, for coming on and being a guest again. And I wish you the best. This is exciting that you working into the field of adult fiction now.
Thanks so much, Amy. I really appreciate it, and God bless you on your ongoing ministry too.
Thank you so much. All right. Bye, Tony.
Bye bye.
All right. Thank you for checking out another episode of Cath-Lit Live tonight. If you've read Tony's books or your kids have read Tony's books in the past, let us know in the comments if you've read any of the previous ones or if you're planning on checking out Incarnate, his latest. This sounds very, very exciting and a very different kind of venture for him. So I'm looking forward to seeing where this goes for Tony. In the meantime, I'm just going to wish you all some happy reading.